If you've ever been working on a game or another project and you feel like a fraud, you feel like if you make this game or if you expose this game to other people, that people are going to look at you and say, you actually don't know what you're doing. You may be experiencing something known as imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is this idea that you do feel like a fraud. You feel like you're faking your way through whatever you're working on, despite your skills and experience. This is very common, I think, among game developers. It's also common among other professionals like software engineers. And it's sort of marked by this fear that if you expose your work to anyone, that they're going to discover that you're not as skilled or as experienced as you should be. And imposter syndrome can be a very pernicious thing because it will often paralyze you. You'll be afraid to work on something, you'll be afraid to show your game or your project to somebody else, and it can lead to a sort of stagnation where you don't really get much done because you're constantly second guessing yourself, worried about this idea that people might see that you're a fraud. And in this video, what I want to do is talk about a way of overcoming imposter syndrome. This is something that I felt, particularly when I was a brand new engineer. I realized early on that imposter syndrome was not a helpful feeling, and I found a way to get over it that is not just a way of getting rid of the imposter syndrome, but it's actually a way of increasing your ability to grow your skills. The way to overcome imposter syndrome, the way to reframe your efforts, is to embrace failure. I think a large part of imposter syndrome is you are too worried about doing things the right way so that people don't discover your lack of experience or people don't uncover the fraud that you are. So what I mean by embracing failure is that you should engage in your work with the expectation that you're not going to do something right. You should engage with your work with the expectation that somebody is going to see your work and provide a critique of it. For me as a software engineer, especially when I was a junior engineer, I would sometimes be afraid of what the senior engineers would say about my code. I would not really know what I'm doing. I could be brand new to a code base, and I was given a task to do, and I would go ahead and implement that task to the best of my ability and be sort of afraid that the senior engineers were going to look at my code and say, you did this completely wrong. Why are we hiring you? Why are we paying you? This is not good. But I was quickly disabused of that feeling when I discovered that the senior engineers would look at my work and say, yeah, it looks good. Or they would point out minor things that needed to be changed, relatively minor tweaks that didn't take more than an hour to do. And sometimes they would say, well, that's not quite the right approach. I see what you did here, but can we do it this way instead? And in all of those instances, not once did any software engineer question my fundamental abilities. And that's primarily when I realized that imposter syndrome was not a helpful feeling at all. But that's also when I realized that instead of feeling the paralysis about getting a task done because I'm worried about being exposed as a fraud, it was actually more efficient to get the task done in the way that I thought it should be done as quickly and efficiently as possible so that I could get to the code review stage earlier and get feedback on what needs to be fixed earlier. So I actually became a more efficient engineer when I started to rely on my gut instinct or my initial impressions about how to implement something, and then letting the senior engineers tell me what needs to be tweaked and what not. And so I became far more productive when I did that. And so I carried that over into my game development experience. You know, it's very easy as a game developer to say, well, my art is not good, or I don't know if this gameplay system is programmed correctly. And in my case, I stream almost daily on this channel, and I expose the code that I'm writing to everyone. And what I do now is I just take the mindset of, I'm expecting this not to be the right way to do it. I'm expecting that however I'm drawing my art, or however I'm writing my code, it's going to be critiqued, and that a lot of that critique is actually going to be helpful. So going back to the main point, I think you want to embrace failure. You want to get to the failure situation as quickly as possible so that you can get feedback as quickly as possible and integrate that feedback as quickly as possible. Hemming and hawing about whether you should do it one way or another because you're worried about what's the quote-unquote right way of doing it is just going to slow down your progress. So get your work done, draw that sprite however you think is fit to draw it, write the code in a way that gets it to work, and then when you expose it to other people, take in their critique. And it doesn't even need to be something external. You don't need to show your work to other people. It's about showing yourself as well. You can do work in a way that you know is probably not right, or in a way that you know is probably not the most efficient, and then retroactively analyze what you could have done better for yourself. So the main point for overcoming imposter syndrome is expect the failure, embrace the failure, get to the failure condition as quickly as possible so that you can learn as quickly as possible, and so that you can address the failures as quickly as possible. I think with that reframing, you'll find that the imposter imposter syndrome basically goes away because you're no longer an imposter, right? You're basically coming at your work with an attitude of, yeah, I'm just gonna get it done. I'm gonna be really scrappy. I'm gonna get something working. And if a problem arises or if somebody points out something that could be improved, then I will go ahead and do that step. But my imposter syndrome is no longer a factor because I'm not putting that expectation on myself that I need to be an expert in all domains. I'm not putting the expectation on myself that everything needs to be done absolutely perfectly and by the book, or else somebody is going to accuse me of being a fraud. Rather, I'm going to be this person that just iterates rapidly and gets to a point where I can see the end result of my work, and then that end result can be refined if necessary, either through a retroactive analysis of my own work or by putting my work in front of other people. So I just want to leave you with that idea. If you struggle with imposter syndrome, give that a try. Move away from a mindset of I need to prove my skills, more to a mindset of I'm going to iterate as rapidly as possible and get to that failure state as quickly as possible so that I can make my game or my code as good as possible. Anyway, I hope that helps. That's how I've thought about this problem. That's how I've overcome this problem. So I hope my perspective helps you. Thanks for watching this video. And the game that I've been playing this whole video is my game Alchemortis. So if you would wishlist that on Steam, I'd appreciate it. And if you want to come over and see how I'm implementing my own advice, you can check out my streams, which happen nearly every day on this channel. Take care, everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to support my work, please consider wishlisting Alchemortis on Steam, subscribing to my Patreon, joining the Discord server, or purchasing one of my courses. You can also sign up for my email list at firebelly.com. The links for everything are in the description below.